Hello everyone. So in today's video, I will be discussing about the scope of civil engineering. So basically, here in this video, I will be discussing about the various scope a student has after he or she completes his or her BTech in civil engineering. The aim of this video is to inform a candidate about the various options that are available after they complete their UG in civil engineering, right? So I'll be discussing about the various competitive exams and other things, and I will not be discussing about how to prepare for them, right? I'll be just touching those topics because that is not the aim of this video lecture, right? The aim is to let you guys know about the options that are available after you complete your BTech in civil engineering, right? So if I want to bifurcate the scope of civil engineering after uh, completion of BTech in civil engineering, it can be bifurcated into two categories. One is the job, and other is a candidate can go for further studies, right? So let's discuss about the job aspect first. So again, the job can be divided into two categories. That first of all, candidate can apply for a private job, and the other is that the candidate can prepare for various government jobs, right? So let's take up the private job. If I again want to simplify, the private job are of two varieties, or the options of doing job in private sector or of can be bifurcated into two. The first one is to work in the core sector, or the okay, they can a candidate can work in the other sectors of after completing his or her BTech in civil engineering. Core means that the company is dealing exclusively with the civil engineering. So you have lot of companies that are there. Either the companies come to the college, or you can also apply via off campus. You can submit your resume to these companies, and based upon your skills, based upon your knowledge, the company can hire you as a fresher, right? The other is where you can apply in some non-core companies, right? So you have a variety of uh, non-core companies like Infosys, which takes up or which are open for all the candidates in a engineering institute, and basically you are eligible to apply in those companies also. Now the drawback of applying in these companies, that sometimes you must have heard that in X company 500 employees or 1000 employees have been laid off at a single point, right? These uh, these candidates who are being laid off are actually these non-core candidates, right? So like, you have done your BTech in civil engineering, but the company trains you in their own softwares, in their own methodologies, and in their own technical skills, and then they put you to some job, right? But at the end, you're not well versed with these companies criteria and other things, right? You only know the basic things. So at the time of laying off, when the cost cutting is being done, so these non-course candidates are the first people who are being laid off by the company, right? So in case you go for the non-core companies, make sure with time you update your resume, you update your knowledge, you become more well versed with the work structure and the requirement of the company, so that in future you are always useful for the company, right? So that is your other sector in which you can apply. And then your core companies like L&T, where you apply, or the company comes to your college, you give the written interview, as the case may be. It may be both, or it may be only interview, right? And based upon your knowledge, your technical skills, you are hired in the company. Okay. Now one thing that I want to touch upon is that the package of a core company, that is core civil engineering company, is fairly less, right? It offers a fairly less package compared to your CS, IT and other companies, right? The reason for this is that civil engineers value increases with the experience, right? So during your BTech time, you are going to study a lot of subjects related to civil engineering. That will be the theoretical aspect, right? And even if you study the practical part of that subject, mostly that the application of it, you will be more efficient of in applying those concepts, and you're going to learn how to deal with the challenges that you face on the field once you start to gain experience, right? So your field experience increases, your package also increases, right? So that is the one thing that you have to take into mind, that the initial package will be comparatively less to the other branches, but the percentage growth is fairly high. The more experience that you have, the more increment you are going to get in the future, right? So that is your private sector. In government sector, again, the jobs in the government sector I can bifurcate into your core and your others or non-core sector, right? So basically, government jobs usually are preferred because of the job stability and comparatively higher package at the joining of the department, right? So compared to the private sector, the packages here the packages here are fairly higher, and the job stability is also fairly higher in the government sector, right? So that is why most of the candidates are aspire to get jobs in the government sector, right? Now let's talk about the core sectors of the government. Again, in the core sector, basically you have two options, like you have the central government job and you have the state government jobs, right? You have the central government jobs and you have the state government jobs. So basically, there are various departments in the state governments and the central governments, like PWD, CPWD, right? Transportation department, environment department, water resource department. There are variety of departments that are there in state as well as in the center, right? So when they need a candidate, an advertisement is being published where the number of seats and the requirements of the candidate is there, and the candidate who aspire for these jobs apply and prepare for the competitive exams, right? So to get the government job, you have to clear a competitive exam, right? You have to clear a competitive exam, right? Now this competitive exam, depending upon the type of government sector that you are applying for, the pattern of the competitive exam may differ. Some of the government sectors use three-stage process, right, where we have the objective paper, then we have the subjective paper, and then the third one is the interview, right? The third one is the interview. So in objective, again, depending upon the type of exam that you are applying for, you have aptitude paper where English, simple maths, and a few current affair and GK questions are there, and then you have the objective of the your subjects, that is whatever subject that you have studied in your civil engineering. Objectives questions from those subjects are asked and you have to attempt those, right? Now depending upon the sector to sector government department and the organizing body, the subjective paper can again be diverted, can be bifurcated into, we have objective paper 1, objective paper 2, where few subjects are asked in paper 1, few subjects are asked in paper 2, and there is one aptitude exam where the English, normal mathematics, and current affair, and the GK is asked, and this is mostly all the government sector exams include these, right? So in case you are aspiring for the government job, you must know what is happening all around you, right? What is happening in the world, right? And especially if you are applying for certain state, the geography of the state, the history of the state, the uh, general knowledge of the state you must have, right? Then you have the subjective paper. Subjective paper is basically the convention paper, right? It is the conventional paper, again bifurcated into conventional paper 1, conventional paper 2, where here detailed questions are asked, right? Questions are asked and you have to solve your papers just like your normal exam routines. This is the conventional paper. So there, then you have the PI, right? So again, depending upon the body that is organizing the exam, sometime objective paper is taken as a scrutiny paper, right? Uh, based upon your performance, the cutoff is prepared, and then students are allowed to go for the conventional paper, and those who qualify the conventional paper are eligible to go for the interview, right? Or it may happen that objective one, like marks from objective paper and subjective paper are compiled, and then based upon that cutoff marks is prepared, and then you are allowed or called for the interview, and then you have interview. After that, once you clear all these three stage, you get the job, right? Once you clear all these three, you get the job. Okay, so this is a general criteria for your government exams. So in central government, you have like the pinnacle or the prestigious job a civil engineer can get in his field is by clearing engineering service exam, right? Somewhere you may see IES, also called as Indian Engineering Service Exam. Generally it is engineering service exam, right? So engineering service exam is a central government job where basically you get the uh, job under the central government, right? And you are transferred throughout your life in the all parts of the country, right? While in state government, you will be transferred within the state. Now, the size of the work and the post that you get by clearing engineering service exam is way too high, right? Like in both in central government and state government, you have your JEE exams, you have your AE exams, right? And from this engineering service exam, you have one post called as assistant executive engineer, right? This is the only exam that this ESE exam is the only exam that gives you the post of assistant executive engineer, right? Now let me take few of your time and discuss about this. So basically, see, from J you will be promoted to A, and from A you will be promoted to executive engineer. This is the hierarchy of your promotion, right? Generally, if you join any organization as a J, it takes around 10 years to become A, and it takes another 10 years to become executive engineer, and after that your senior engineer and chief engineer comes, right? While if you join as an assistant executive engineer, within 3-4 years you are promoted to executive engineer, and from there you are promoted to senior engineer, and from there you are promoted to chief engineer, right? So where here then again it will take around 10 to 15 years to become senior engineer, and then become certain, by the time you are eligible for chief engineer, only 2 3 years are left, and that too only the lucky ones are able to reach to the post who have started from JEE, right? Normally it never happens. Like a JEE, rare, especially in today's scenario, in 2021 scenario, where there are so many vacancies, so many candidates are there, so many waiting in promotions are there, it's very hard for a person even from A to reach to this chief engineer post, right? They mostly retire by the post of senior engineer, right? So that is what the value of ESE is. Again, I'll give you another example. So suppose you are at the age of 21, you have completed your BTech in civil engineering. Like, let's say there are three candidates, right? Candidate 1, candidate 2, and candidate 3. Candidate 1 is preparing for JEE, candidate 2 is preparing for A, and candidate 3 is preparing for ESE exams, right? Now suppose all three are being selected, right? So from JEE to becoming an A, he has joined at 21, so by the time of 31 he will be A, by the time of 41 he will be senior. There are two in perfect scenario, right? I'm talking about a perfect scenario. While if you're going for AE, then uh, at the age of 21 the candidate is selected as A. At the age of 31 he will be executive engineer. He will be, sorry, he will be executive engineer. Then again, 51 or between 55, even 60, he will be the senior engineer, right? So that will be executive engineer. Again, a perfect scenario. Normally it doesn't happen. Normally the vacancies are not available to promote to the post of to promote an AE to the post of executive engineer, and because of that, though the salary is increased, but the post the candidate has to work with the post of AE, though he might be getting the salary of AE, right? And likewise the hierarchy follows. Now a person who has joined at the age of 21 as an assistant to the executive engineer, right? Within 3 years he is promoted to the executive engineer. Just compare this post, right? Just compare this post, see the difference, right? That is the beauty of ES. Though even if a candidate takes 2 to 3 years, the reward is much higher, right? Another thing is that ESE is a yearly paper. It is conducted by UPSC, so it happens every year. That's a surety. It's not assured that JEE and A paper, especially the state government JEE and A paper, are going to happen every year or even every 3 or 4 years, right? No matter in which state you are, just look around, just search for the latest advertisements, latest 5 advertisements for the post of JEE and A. You will see that it is not that frequent compared to ESE. ESE always happens every year, and your ESE exam, what happens is that within 1 year, all the formalities are done, right? So in January or February, you have the pre, then in June you have your mains, and by October you have your interviews, and by next January the result is out. Within 1 year, all the formalities are done. You are big. Suppose you are selected as ESE, and everything is done. No time is wasted. This does not the same way JEE and AE, right? So this is the what I want you to. I don't want you to discourage to pursue these, right? All jobs are equal. It's just I want to tell you how the things proceed, right? That is the aim of this video. Okay, so that is your these ESE post, right? So these are your core civil engineering post. If I talk about others, you can apply for bank PO, right? There is SSC CGL. Basically, from here you get various departments of class B. ESE is grade 1, so like income tax officer, you get department from home ministry, and likewise there are from SSCGL you can also go for the clerk, but that is not the aim. I must say this you should not keep aim so low. Like income tax officers and other reputed organizations, that is what you are going to join once you clear this SSCGL, right? Then you have civil service exam. Civil service exam. Now by clearing this exam you become IAS, IPS, IRS, likewise, right? Now these are non-core sectors, right? So basically you're not going to deal with the engineering part, right? You're not going to be doing what you have studied in your past 4 years, but you are going to be more of an administrative post, right? You are going to be administrator, right? So that is the what these exams do, right? There are many other options that are available for a graduate student, right? If I keep on touching on those, the video will be way too long and won't be that effective, right? So three of the most common is bank IPO, SSC CGL, and civil service exams that is being conducted, right? So likewise, central state also conduct various other core exams that you can get to know as you progress with your civil engineering course, right? So this is your government job. Now let's move on to the next part, that is the further studies. Now if I talk about the further studies, you can do MS, you can do MTech, and then you can do PhD, right? So there are various exams and various IITs and NITs offer MS exams, MS course in civil engineering. Likewise, there are MTech course that are available. So to get MTech admission in MTech, right? So you have completed your BTech. After BTech, there is an exam called GATE exam, graduate aptitude test in engineering, right? So that is your exam. So by clearing GATE exam, this exam is affiliated to various IITs, various NITs, and various PSUs. PSUs are public sector undertakings, right? So what happens is, if you are scoring between 1 to 100 rank, right? So what happens is, there are various PSUs like NTPC, ONGCs, right? So these candidates are called for the interviews by the PSUs, right? These are called by the PSUs. Like 1 to 100, I'm saying why? Because this rank assures your job to a greater extent compared to the below 100, right? This rank 1 to 100 means that 99.99% you are going to get the job, because like 70% of the weightage is given to the GATE scorecard and 30% is given to the interview, right? So the PSUs call you for the interview, and from there you give the interview and you get a job, right? Apart from that, there are other organizations like Delhi Metro and other organizations that takes GATE as the eligibility criteria to get the job, right? So again, to get the job, you have to also prepare for the GATE exam. If you are not able to get the job through the GATE, there are IITs, NITs, and other state government colleges that gives you the offers you the course to pursue your MTech. During your time, you get a scholarship. So at this time, the scholarship is 12,000 rupees, right? It may further increase in future, right? So you get this scholarship to pursue your MTech, right? So it like these MTech course, see, if you are preparing for the central government and state government jobs, competition is quite high. Not way too high. Like people will say it's way too high based upon the number of applicants that apply for the job, but the serious candidates proportion is fairly less compared to the people who have lied, right? So though the competition is high, right? And sometimes despite your hard work, you are not able to clear the exam, maybe because of your poor approach, maybe because of cutoff being high or low, any reason, right? So enrolling in the MTech gives you 2 years time to utilize the time for the preparation, as well as to improve your professional background, right? From the BTech you are going to get MTech, and at the same time you are incrementing or increasing your portfolio, right? So that is the benefit of doing MTech, right? And plus, after completing MTech, there are various companies that look for the person of specialization. In your MTech, you are going to do on the structural engineering. You can pursue masters in the transportation engineering, in environmental engineering, in earthquake engineering, depending upon the rank and your interest, right? Right. There are the state government colleges also that take MTech students from by who have cleared GATE, but I'll advise target only the IITs and NITs, right? Target only these. After MTech you can go for the PhD, and again scholarship is given for the PhD candidates to pursue their research work, right? And again these scholarship like helps you a lot, right? Is many times it happens that after completing BTech, students do not want to take money from their home, right? So that also to these scholarship helps to a certain extent, right? So you can pursue the PhD after completing your MTech, right? And again you can pursue a PhD from the same college, or you can apply for different institutes like IITs and IITs, and even into the foreign countries, and from there you can pursue your research work. And after completing the PhD, you have lots of job options, right? You have the teaching post. You can you can be a teacher at these IITs and IITs also. There are various private colleges also that takes PhD candidates, right? Then there are scientist posts. Various scientists like organization like DRDO, CSIR, CRI. So there the requirement of scientists keep popping up, and you can apply for these depending on the your area of expertise, right? So after completing PhD, there are other options of job options that opens up, right? As you increase your qualifications, right? Apart from that, there are certain researchers post that comes once you complete your PhD. Likewise, after completing your MTech, you are eligible for JRF and SRF post. Like these are the these JRF and SRF posts are the project post. Like different IITs and IITs professors have various projects that are going on, and in that they can hire you as a JRF and SRF to complete their research work, right? Again, a good amount of salary is given based upon your post, right? So these are broadly the options available. You can also go for MBA also in construction technology and management. The IIT Madras, I believe, has this course where you can go for construction technology and management, MBA in construction technology and management. And we have NICMAR in Pune, which offers the course in pursuing MBA in construction technology and management. It's a private college, NICMAR. Okay, so broadly speaking, these are the options that are available, right? Again, I have not touched about each and every job, right? I'm there are other options that are available, right? So broadly speaking, these are the job options that are available for a candidate who has completed his BTech in civil engineering, right? So there are good amount of options. Okay, so just look into these and choose wisely, right? And if you're if you're targeting government job, right, I'll advise start preparing at your third year, right? Even like once you complete 2.5 years of your BTech, start working on those, right? Start making good concepts, start right from the start, and I think you can crack any exam, right? Okay. So in this channel, you are going to learn a lot of topics related to civil engineering. From time to time, I am going to post lectures and various informations related to the civil engineering, right? And I hope this video was useful to you. And if you feel this video was useful to you, do like and share, like this video, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to get more information. So thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day.